How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Blue Shifting, and welcome back to Higurashi when they cry, because, oh boy, we're dead. I mean, that's the conclusion I came to last night. That's last time, and the conclusion I'm still on. Rena kind of showed... That's the thing, I'm not sure if her... She has a mask on of her normal life, apparently, because the real, or at least something more real, came through. I'm still not even sure if that's truly Rena, still. But she was confrontational. She was, like, paranoid. She seemed imminently violent and very much, like, investigative. She called us a liar, called us out, snuck back to our house and listened to our conversation with the investigator, and then snuck out again. The sad thing is she didn't even sneak in. She got invited in. So we're in real trouble now, and I'm not sure how it's all going to resolve, because I still think that my guess is that she believes in the curse, and she genuinely is believing that she and her family might be next. And the thing is that, what was the saying? If you're hiking in the forest with a group, and a grizzly bear comes out of the tree line and charges at you, you don't have to be you don't have to be able to outrun the grizzly bear. You just have to be able to outrun someone else in the group. I think that's what Rena's plan probably is becoming, because I think she 100% believes in the curse. It's kind of egged on by her friends like Mion, who also seemingly believes in the curse. But she's probably, I think she's getting so convinced that she and her family are going to be next in line to be taken out, that now what she might try to do is try and convince the curse to take us instead. And that's what I think is about to happen. At least what's going to happen. I'm not sure how the next episode's supposed to go, because, like, how are we supposed to go to school now? How are we supposed to interact with her? Like, I don't know. It's freaking crazy. Yeah, it's disturbing is the word of the day, and I just don't know what's gonna happen. I'm very interested, but I also learned something very interesting before we jump into it. So you get achievements, and for visual novels usually, especially more linear stories, they're essentially mile markers for how far along you progress in the game. Now, I don't typically look too closely into them, because again, they can almost be an indicator of how long your game is. But it kind of keeps the flag up on your screen for the game page when you've got an achievement. And I got the achievement Lies, which is like the marker was at the end of the last chapter, Lie to Rena. And you know what's really sad? On the Steam version of the game, it reports that 25% of players of the game have received that achievement. Which means that, according to Steam's back-end statistics, unless there are people who are playing the game and not synchronizing and receiving achievements through Steam, that means that 25% of people got to this point. Can you imagine playing the game and deciding to drop it before now? That's disturbingly sad. I can kind of understand maybe why, if you haven't been primed knowing that this is highly recommended by people, you might decide this is not worth it. But if you could get to this point, I don't know anyone who would stop. You'd be like, oh my gosh, I gotta know what's happening next. So, yeah, it's just interesting to me. Anyway, nothing else for it. I've already been going on too long. Let's jump in, shall we? Oh no. I really don't think this is gonna end well. Weariness and a headache. Not a very nice way to start the day. Has it played this music before? This feels different.
どうしたの? ケイチ、今朝は顔色悪いわよ。昨夜は何時に寝たの?
It seemed that my mom had noticed my sullen state. Yesterday, I kept on waking up in the middle of the night. Without a doubt, I felt a presence. I felt that presence of someone standing in front of my door. I told myself repeatedly that it was my imagination and forced myself to try to sleep. Except, not being able to stand it, I gathered up my courage and opened the door. Of course, there wasn't anyone there. I think I did this 3 times throughout the night. Or maybe I just didn't remember doing it any more than that. Even though I was able to get to the breakfast table without incident, I still didn't feel at ease.
風邪かもしれない。なんだか食欲ないんだ。
あら、 ちょっと熱あるんじゃない？どうする？学校、行ける？
I don't think I have the will to. Technically, I did go to school, but it was mostly self-study. I wouldn't matter much if I missed a day, would it? I could have been that I hadn't been feeling well for the last few days because I really did have a cold. If I took some medicine and got a good day of rest, I might be able to greet everyone with a smile tomorrow. Ding dong. Oh, it's gonna be her. Startled, I looked back and forth between the entrance and the clock. It was 10 minutes later than when I usually got met up with Rena. It was Rena.
レナちゃん迎えに来ちゃったけど、どうする？お休みする？
Rena was a good girl. She might be somewhat quirky, but she was certainly cute. The lunches she made were delicious, and she always looked out for me. God, those ring real hollow now. Why should I be so scared of something like that? It wasn't Rena's fault. It was probably mine. It had to have been my cold. It just had to be.
休む。ごめん。
じゃあ、母さんが断ってきてあげるわね。
Mom headed off to the door. I would have to pass by the entrance to get back to my room. I didn't have the nerve to meet with Rena, so I wrapped myself in a blanket on the sofa and closed my eyes. I was so sleep-deprived I quickly fell into a deep slumber. Well, I mean, we passed the buck for the day. I had only intended to lie down for a bit, but it was almost noon when I woke up. I called out to my parents, but they didn't seem to be around. On the table, I found a lunch prepared and a note. Mom and Dad had apparently driven off somewhere far away. I likely had to do with Dad's work. Oh, cool. That's just what we need, to be left alone. This happened every so often, so it wasn't that unusual. They would be back for dinner, but might be a bit late. On the note it said, "The insurance card is in the cabinets. Take it and go to the hospital." There were also a well-drawn map to the hospital. That's right. I hadn't been there before, so I didn't know exactly where it was. I had a light lunch, although it really was just leftovers from this morning, and just in case, went to the hospital. I'm terrified. Normally I'd never been here, but in the middle of a weekday. It's just walking around like this had me feeling guilty. It was an odd feeling. It's kind of interesting though, like he's checking in to go to the hospital or the doctor or whatever, but he's walking there. If I've ever been sick enough where like I would feel like I need to go to the doctor, I don't think I could have walked across town. I just would have stayed home. Following my mom's map, I took a road I usually never used and walked for a bit. The hospital's sign came into view. RE Clinic was written rather stylishly on the sign. The clinic wasn't very big, but based on the scale of the rest of Hinamizawa, was far too grand. There was a parking lot and even a reserved spot for buses. They must be making a mint. Making a mint? What? What does that mean? I have no idea. I spaced out in the air-conditioned waiting room until it was my turn to be seen.
前原さん、診察室へどうぞ。
Alright. After half-heartedly answering all the chatty doctor's questions, he responded with an odd, old, "It's probably a cold." They gave me a shot and 3 days worth of medicine. You get shots for colds? I've never had a shot for a cold. I thought it was a little overboard, but they were clear. But if it would clear away the gloomy feeling I'd been having lately, then it was worth it. I settled the bill and took a quiet trip to the washroom. As I was leaving, I overheard a conversation between some elderly people who seemed to be regulars at the clinic. Of course, I had no intention of eavesdropping. If it just wasn't for that word.
やっぱりOnikakushiかいね。
Oh boy.
どうかね。まだまだ若い子だけや。
Oh, they're talking about the girl that went missing, right?
駆け落ちかもしられへん。どこの誰とよ。季節のたびに東京もんが来ちょったろ。でっけえカメラ持った若者が。あれと仲が良きゃったって話。知られへんの？
Oh, I clicked early. Were they talking about Tomatake-san? I could feel my ears perking up.
そら知らんけど、でも普通駆け落ちっても仁義あるだろう。
I mean, kind of, maybe, but at the same time, like, technically, if you have an outward source of support, you probably could just drop of a hat, do it.
書き置きとか辞表とか書かんかいね。
すったらんかかんから駆け落ち言うんね。わきゃ看護師さんの顔見られんようなるわ。寂しいね。
Oh, so she worked here.
高野さんはしっかり者よ。
Takano.
どこへ行ってもやっていけろん。
Though her name was Takano-san. That woman was the woman with Tomatake-san. And she worked at this clinic. Oyashiro-sama's shadow was following me everywhere I went. I started listening more closely, but they began talking about fishing, and it didn't seem like they were going to revisit the topic. I gave up and left. Thus, even though I was separated from the daily monotony of school, I wasn't able to escape for Onigashiro-sama's shadow. But of course, Oyashiro-sama was the guardian deity of this place, of Hinamizawa. As long as I was in Hinamizawa, I wouldn't be able to escape. Maybe it was because I was walking outside when my appetite suddenly returned. Might as well buy a snack with the change from the examination fee on the way home. Contemplating that, I turned to a familiar street. In that moment, I heard a car horn abruptly honk behind me. Was I really walking so far into the middle of the road where I'd be in the car's way? I moved further off the side, but the horn was still honking at me. I turned around, peeved. Oh boy.
Konnichiwa.
It was Ooishi-san. He stepped out of the car, AC on full blast, and waved at me.
今日はどうしたんです？学校はお休みですか？
ちょっと体調悪かったんで、今日は休みました。お昼を買って帰ろうとしてたところです。
そりゃよかった。実は私、お昼に行こうとしてたんですよ。
I don't
よかった
know.
らご一緒にいかがです？
I feel like talking to you's already causing us enough trouble.
ああ、お体に触るようでしたら構いませんよ。
I was just going to lie down after going home anyway. And I didn't really have a cold.
地元の食堂だと嫌でしょう。町まで行きましょう。ちょっと走りますがよろしいですかな？私、おいしいお店知ってるんですよ。
I'd finally begun to understand Ooishi-san's roundabout way of saying things. And by the way, I keep accidentally clicking early because I feel like they're done talking and I'm excited. I want to see what's happening. He probably wanted to talk to me about stuff that would be difficult to discuss while in Hinamizawa. I went with Ooishi-san riding in his frigid car. I was almost as if the bright sunlight outside was a lie.
昨夜は遅くまですみませんでしたね。ご家族に怒られませんでしたか？
No, someone else did though.
いえ、
I recalled Rena, who had been listening on the phone conversation all the time, separated from me by just the door. Even now, in the brightness of the sunlight, the thought still creeped me out. With a big bump that jolted the car, the road connecting to the city changed from dirt to pavement. My head swiveled back with a sudden realization. That's right. That was where Tomatake-san died.
富武さんの捜査は暗礁に乗り上げています。
Ooishi-san spoke while peering at me from the corner of his eye.
自分の爪で喉をかき破るという異常さから幻覚作用のある何らかの薬物によるものだと信じているのです。
Right. I mean, that makes the most sense, but I thought they did a tox screen.
こういう症状、それも急激に引き起こす薬物はなかなかないらしいんです。もちろん検視解剖もそれを念頭に置いて十分に行ったのですが、手がかりはやはりありませんでした。
So, it still just feels like an enigma.
漫画なんかによくあるじゃないですか。体内に取り込まれると分解したりして、証拠が何も残らないなんて、そんな薬。
Well, those are becoming more and less and less frequent as you do more research.
ありますよ。演歌作詞何でしたっけ？
Yeah.
まあ、結構あります。でもですね、富武さんのような症状を引き起こす薬物にはそういうものはないそうなんですよ。
It could just be an undiscovered component. I mean, we discover new species all the time. Mushrooms are a source of some hallucinogenics. It's possible that there could be a unique cave mushroom somewhere in the mountains here that actually would produce a hallucinogenic that just isn't detected by modern tests or breaks down in the blood before shortly after it's activated.
じゃあ、警察は富武さんは叩いて死んだってそう言うんですか？
Couldn't help but feel the police were worthless. I just wanted the idea of a curse to be disassociated from Tomataka-san's mysterious death.
悔しいですが、今のところは。ですが、死因はともかく、
死ぬ前に何人かの人間に囲まれて暴行を受けたことだけは間違いありません。
Oishi's got a really strong point that he needs to really keep hammering home. Is like, look, whether or not the cause of the death was curse doesn't really matter, because in the end, there were others around who hindered and aided in his death rather than helping him.
たたりでなく、人間が事件に関わっているのは疑いようがありませんよ。
That made me a bit relieved. No, it should make you disturbed. We passed in front of a rather desolate but still busier than Hinamizawa train station. The car pulled into a restaurant parking lot and I followed Ooishi into the shop. It was pretty crowded, but there were only adults at this hour. Of course, there wouldn't be children here in the middle of a weekday.
2名です。タバコは、我慢します。
こちらへどうぞ。ご注文がお決まりになりましたらお呼びください。
Yeah, I guess even to this day, smoking in public and inside restaurant spaces is actually still a thing in Japan, which is crazy to think about. I mean, I understand that it's culturally still very accepted, but at the same time, like it's well established how bad it is for your health. We were led to a peculiarly dressed waitress to our table. I sat with Ooishi-san in the booth.
どうです？このお店のウェイトレスさんの格好。
Oh.
可愛らしいと思いません？
Okay, buddy.
まあどうでしょうね。
このお店ね、いっつも大人気なんですよ。お料理よりもウェイトレスさんがね。
That's dumb.
ああ。
It's like going to a Hooters. It's like, why? The food's awful. That's not worth it.
大石さん、目がやらしいですよ。
そうですか？
What a guy. Ooh. Regardless of how the waitresses looked, the food was decent enough. Finishing our meals while talking about some inane topic, Ooishi-san, after a meal cup of coffee, arrived at the table.
昨日、Hinamizawaの昔話が出ましたよね。
ええ。人食い鬼の里だって言われてたって話でしたっけ？
私もあんまり詳しい方じゃないので、うちのおばあ様に今朝ちょっと聞いてみたんです。
Ooishi-san took out a notepad that was stuffed in his breast pocket. By the way, I think the problem's going to be when we get dropped off. He's going to take us back to our house. He's going to drop us off, and Rena's going to be there. She'll be like, "What were you doing?" I think that I'm predicting what's going to happen because it makes the most sense, and we're going to get shanked.
なんでもですね。大昔はHinamizawaは鬼ヶ淵って呼ばれてたんだそうです。
Really? Onikakushi.
鬼ヶ淵。すごい名前ですね。
Yeah.
今でもその名前残ってるんですよ。神主の妻が受水自殺した沼の名前は今でも鬼ヶ淵と言うんです。
It's interesting. So the way they're reading that, the Onikakushi, they're saying it Onikakushi. Like they're almost like it's almost like a breathless like vowel U. It's an oo sound, but it's like really stunted. It's interesting. I wonder why they read it like that. I understand like clipping the ends, the vowel sounds on the ends of words. I know that's a phonetics thing that is common in Japan. But that having that fu be instead of being fu be fu, like really like almost like you're like sucking the breath away. Onikakushi.
沼の底の底は鬼たちの住む国とつながってると言われてたんだそうです。
Of course, nobody told me anything about such an ominous swamp.
でですね、鬼ヶ淵は恐れられていたと同時に崇められてもいたんだそうです。
A respect born of fear. I guess you could say it was a kind of deification. A village of inhuman creatures.
鬼たちはある種の仙人でもあったらしいんですよ。例えば、不治の病にかかった村人を鬼ヶ淵に運んで治してもらったりとかしたんだそうです。
Tengu or Senin would be more apt descriptions.
鬼って言ってもそんなに悪い人たちじゃないみたいですね。
But that's the idea, is that demons can do incredible things that seem positive, but there's always a catch.
でもそこはやっぱり人食い鬼らしいんです。ばあ様に聞いた昔話ではですね、 息子を治療してもらった代償として、連れてきた母親を食わせろと、こうなるらしいんですよ。
Yep, so a price.
息子を治療してもらった対価が自分ですか？それは怖いな。
もちろん、母親は息子を連れて逃げます。これをですね、鬼ヶ淵に住む村人、鬼たちがですね、全員で追いかけて取り囲んで捕まえたんだそうです。
So the villagers, like, helped the demons. The entire village, apparently. That's quite a frightening thing to imagine.
結局、母親も息子も捕まって食べられちゃったんだそうです。
Ugh.
おしまい。
Oshime. Yeah, but tabare, like, they were eaten. Like, tabare. Like, this is such a casual way to describe eaten.
その話、矛盾がありますよ。当事者の2人が食べられちゃったんですから、その話が残るはずがありません。
ありゃ。昔話はこういうの多いですよね。
In contrast to the ghastly tale, Ooishi-san laughed heartily while sipping his coffee. Not slapping it. You don't slap coffee.
他の昔話にも結構あるらしいんですよ。鬼ヶ淵の鬼たちが総出で獲物を捕まえに来るというのは。
I recall that Mion said all the villagers united and fought against the dam construction. I saw similarities with how that part of the unification overlapped.
鬼たちの獲物は常に一人で、しかも前もって決められているらしいんです。
Yeah, so maybe there's an old ritual like hunting, it's almost like a witch hunt back in the day. You know, like you like gather together the faithful, determine the target, and you just go after them.
Eh?
That caught my attention. Ooishi-san also appeared to be pondering what it meant.
ばあ様が言うにはですね、鬼の狩りの時には絶対に邪魔をしてはいけない。家に閉じこもって布団をかぶってろって言うんです。
つまり、どういうことですか？
獲物の人を助けたり、かくまったりしてはいけないんだそうです。鬼の狩りを邪魔しない限り、村人には危害を加えない。
Right.
そういうルールなんだそうです。
Basically, don't help the victims. Pretend you don't see the atrocities. In other words,
ルールを破ったらどうなるんです？
さあ、何しろ人食い鬼ですからね。
many parts of that tale caught my attention. Parts of the story he told me overlapped with his theory of the entire village was onto the crime. Even if it wasn't the whole village, it was conceivable that the villagers were hiding under their covers and leaving them to die when the group that was on the hunt, wasn't it? Yeah. So the villagers are... I've always heard it as a sin of omission. It's not that you're actually complicit in the crime, but by not acknowledging it, refusing to interfere, and even pretending like it's not happening, you are essentially abating the crime. You're allowing it to happen and making sure that those who could get caught doing it are getting away by not providing information. And that's the thing. Is again, like what's the consequence for those who do interfere with the hunt, who do try to like go against it, like Keiichi is inadvertently doing? They get eaten. I didn't dare speak it.
じゃあ、大石さんは、やっぱり村ぐるみ、もしくは村人数人の犯行だと見てるんですね。
Again, it's both, but majority of the village probably isn't complicit. Like, they're not aiding, per se, but they're not stopping either.
前原さんはどう思います？ああ、すみません。コーヒーのおかわりいいですか？
That's what I wanted to know. It seemed that we were both waiting for the other to say the last part. He waited for the waitress to finish pouring the coffee before speaking.
去年、サトシ君が失踪した頃から、私は不審に感じていたんです。
Satoshi, he disappeared. I thought he transferred out. Ooishi-san muttered as he watched the milk swirl around his coffee.
それで、サトシさんのお友達、つまり、前原さんのお友達グループの皆さんを、ちょっぴりだけ、本当にちょっぴりだけですよ、調べさせてもらったんです。
I might have dug into their pasts. If Ooishi-san said this to me before, I would have gotten angry at him for calling my friends into question. But as I was now, I couldn't.
とてもつまらない話になります。
No, after what Rena did, and like I think it's warranted. We might actually be in genuine danger, yeah?
前原さんがつまらないと感じたら、 いつでもおっしゃってください。終わりにしますので。
Ooishi-san was wearing the most serious expression that I'd ever seen from him. It was as if he was telling me to prepare myself and listen. There were quite a few things I regretted hearing from Ooishi-san, but none of them were as threatening as this. A little voice inside me screaming like an alarm. Stop, Keiichi. This was probably the last one. I took a deep breath and silenced that voice. We're gonna step into the dark, aren't we? We're gonna face the demons head on. I would not run from the truth.
お願いします。
That was all I could utter. Ooishi-san stared into my eyes silently for a few moments after he was certain I was ready. He began.
1年目の事件の被害者は現場の監督さんだったんですが、事件の数週間前に園崎美音さんと取っ組み合いをしてるんですよ。
So Mion's father, I'm guessing, had an altercation with the first victim.
何度か。
Multiple. Ooishi-san had said that before Mion had defied the dam project vehemently. Well, it wasn't hard to imagine how she'd be if she got worked up.
2年目の事件で誘致派の夫婦が事故に遭いましたよね。現場にはお嬢さんも一緒にいたんです。
Who was that?
それが北条聡子さんなんです。
Whoa, wait, what? Satoko's parents were the ones that died?
え？貞子って、貞子？
Ooishi-san Ooishi-san's look told me that my voice was too loud. I realized it as well and quickly quieted down.
3年目には神主夫婦が亡くなられますよね。
Rika?
そのお嬢さんが
Oh my
古田理香さん
gosh!
です。
They're all tied to him.
リカちゃんが？
4年目に亡くなった主婦はもうわかりますね。北条聡子さんの義理のおばです。
Wait, so again, Satoko, the person who was taking care of Satoko was the target.
当時は聡子さんはご両親を事故で失っていましたので預けられていたのです。
And the uncle killed her aunt?
被害者宅に。
I could tell my lips were getting dry. Yeah, now it's starting to sound like they're directly involved. Like, the kids, like I said, like Satoko, like, it's like, see, it's either, it's just it's happenstance that they're getting targeted, or they're somehow directing the targeting. I didn't even have the wits to keep my mouth from hanging agape. I had thought it was nothing but a bizarre incident, one that could easily distance myself from. But clicking and clacking, it snuck all the way to my feet.
ちなみに4年目に失踪した北条聡さんは聡子さんの実の兄になります。
Why Satoko? Why is everyone from her life vanishing?
その、ちょっと
Why?
待ってください。
It took everything I had to finally say that. I gulped down the glass of water and once again wiped my face with a napkin. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. But Ooishi-san was relentless. Instead of waiting for me to finish sorting out my feelings, he started speaking again. The last of the things I shouldn't have heard.
被害者たちはなぜかあなたのお友達グループに全てつながるのです。
That's horrifying.
偶然に決まってるじゃないですか。
前原さん、静かに。みんな見てますよ。
Mion? Satoko? Rika-chan? So what if they're connected? You're telling me all my friends? I couldn't be. It couldn't be. Oh, Rena is different, isn't she? Rena isn't connected with the victims at all.
竜宮レナさんは去年まで茨城の郊外にお住まいでした。まあ確かにいずれの被害者とも直接の面識はありませんが。
He said it in a roundabout way. Is he saying she's also connected?
実は調べてみたら竜宮さんは引っ越しの少し前に学校で謹慎処分を受けているんですよ。
Why? Please tell me why.
なんでも学校中のガラスを割って回ったんだとか。
We're gonna go home and all the windows are gonna be broken.
レナが学校中のガラスを割った？
Shut up, Keiichi. That same spacey Rena had? I couldn't even imagine it.
3日間の謹慎が明けた後も復学しなかったようです。その間に神経科に通院し、自律神経失調症と診断され、何週間かの間、投薬と医師によるカウンセリングを受けています。
Dysautonomia. I've never heard of that. What's that? I wonder if it was something like a nervous breakdown? I'd heard that it happened to people who are really methodical and overly sensitive. Neither of those matched Rena's easygoing personality.
でですね、そのカウンセリングをした医師のカルテに、レナさんの会話内容が記載されているんですがね。
Kind of interesting that he could get access to her medical records, but eh.
その中に出てくるんですよ。
It shows up.
結構。
何がです？
I press forward carelessly. There couldn't be anything more than for me to regret.
出てくるんですよ。お社様って単語。
What the fetch? How? What? I felt like someone's stone cold hand was caressing my back. Why? Why had Rena spoken of Ooishi-sama before she ever came to Hinamizawa?
お社様っていう幽霊みたいなものがですね、夜な夜な自宅にやってくるっていうんですよ。
We're so dead. Please, I'd be like, I would go to Ooishi, I'd be like, you have to protect me and my family. I think we're going to be next.
枕元に立って自分を見下ろすんだって。
So she's seeing things like a sleep paralysis demon. She gave a name to a deity of a shrine in a place that she'd never been? That's really freaky. My mind froze. I couldn't process what I was being told.
その後、しばらくしてHinamizawaに引っ越されたんです。
What a nightmare.
そうそう。レナさんは、よそ者なんかじゃないですよ。
Oh no.
住民票で分かったんですが、竜宮一家は元はHinamizawaの住人です。
Oh no.
レナさんがちょうど小学校に上がるときに、茨城へ引っ越されたんです。
Oh no. My mind went completely blank. It was similar to the static you see in a blank TV channel. My ears began ringing as I lost all sense of comprehension.
前原さん、大丈夫ですか？もう終わりにしましょうか。
I'm gonna die. Those words brought me back. I couldn't let it end here.
レナのことは分かりました。じゃあ、最後の被害者の富武さんはどうなんですか？誰と接点があるんですか？
Irritated, I let out one final reprisal.
全員ですよ。
How?
お忘れですか、前原さん。みんなで楽しくお祭りの晩を過ごしたじゃないですか。何人もの警官が皆さんの楽しそうな様子を見ていますよ。
Now there was nothing I could respond with. I felt silent as my brain turned to mush.
そろそろ出ましょう。前原さん。お昼の薬は飲みましたか？
I had completely forgotten about the medicine I'd gotten until Ooishi-san said that. I got another glass of water and we left the shop after I chugged it down. He's gonna fall asleep. We got into the car and returned to Hinamizawa via a rough road. I never really paid attention when I was on my bike, but did cars normally shake this much? It was almost as if the road was desperately trying to tell me something. Stay away! But that big jolt was from the difference in elevation of the road when it changed from cement to dirt. I was certain that I heard Tomataka-san scream. I sat in silence, just letting myself be shaken by the car.
お家の前まで送りましょう。
Nope, don't do that.
今日は病気でお休みだったんですよね。長々とお話ししてしまって申し訳ありませんでした。
We're gonna go home. We're gonna fall asleep. We're gonna wake up, and Rena's gonna be sitting over us with a giant knife, and we're gonna be tied up, and we're just dead. We're just gonna be dead.
なんで俺に話すんですか？
I blurted out the question. Really just blurted it out. I didn't expect an answer.
私、一応確認しましたよね。お話やめましょうかって。
じゃなくて、どうして俺に接触してきたんですか？
I understood quite well that Ooishi-san was investigating the string of suspicious incidents. But why was he telling me all this? I knew nothing and I couldn't help. Everything Ooishi-san spoke of was news to me. First of all, what could I, having just moved here, possibly know? By chance, there's a reason for Ooishi-san to reach out to me, then it would have to be that I was part of Mion's circle of friends who looked suspicious to Ooishi-san.
私ね、今年で定年なんです。定年したらばあ様の意向で引っ越しちゃう予定なんですよ。だからこそ在職中にこの事件だけははっきりさせておきたかったんです。
で、大石さんは疑ってるんですよね、みんなを。
Ooishi-san didn't really give a response. It felt a little late, but I thought that it was his way of showing a bit of consideration for my feelings.
これはこの道30年の勘です。前原さん、危ないのはあなたなんですよ。
I absolutely agree. I wanted to reply with that's absurd, but in my downtrodden state, I couldn't bring myself to say it.
私は今年で定年ですから、 来年の綿流しの日にはもういません。だから今年中に決着をつけたいのです。
In other words, he was insinuating that on the next one at Nagashi, I might be the victim.
所長からも注意を受けています。一連の事件は個々に解決しているから蒸し返すなというんです。これは一種の圧力です。
圧力って何のですか？
Hinamizawaの誰かですよ。着きました。この辺でいいですか？
After some time, the car finally reached the path to my house. The clock read 2 p.m. I was surprised so little time had passed since we ate. It was hot outside the car. The chirping of the Higurashi hurt my ears.
今日の話はすべて忘れてくださっても結構です。ですが、私は捜査を続けますよ。お社様のたたりは今年で終わらせます。
I hope you can, boy.
何かあったら
why did
連
that?
絡しろってことですか？
I don't know why that happened. That was weird. Like, I don't think I even clicked anything.
いいんですよ。前原さんがどうしても連絡したくなった時だけでいいんです。
I wasn't collected enough to understand Ooishi-san's roundabout way of saying it.
ゆっくり休んでください。病気でお休みの時に良くない話ばかりして申し訳ありませんでしたね。
Didn't really give any sort of response.
私はいつでもあなたの味方です。それだけは信じといてくださいよ。それじゃあ、失礼。
Goodbye. The tires crunched over the dirt road as the car made a U-turn and disappeared into a cloud of kicked up dust. Felt like I was watching a boat only throw me a lifesaver in shark-infested waters before disappearing into the distance. Yeah, that's a great adage. That was the first time I thought Ooishi-san was being unfair. Telling me I was going to be the next victim and then just saying to contact him if something happened. This wasn't a criminal investigation. He was fishing. And if I was just the bait dangling off the line, would the fish be the perpetrator? Or was it really just Oyashiro-sama's curse? Either way, the bait would be swallowed whole.
畜生。俺、死にたくないよ。
For some time, I could do nothing but stare at the puddle of water left behind by the AC from the car. Oh man, we're so dead. We're so dead. Absolutely, absolutely dead. Here we go. Okay. Wonder how much time passed since I laid down. It was getting dark outside. My body was soaked in sweat. It would probably be a good idea to change my sheets. At that moment, the phone downstairs rang. It was probably Mom. Mom was quite a worrywart. Maybe she had called many times, but I just didn't notice it.
もしもし、前原ですけど。
お、生きてた。もしもーし。
Hey, Mion.
ミオンだけど。具合はどう？
圭一のお友達ですか？圭一は休んでますけど。代わりましょうか？
え？あ、お父様で？すみません。
バカで引っかかってやがるよ。
じゃん。
After our exchange, we both had a good laugh together. Except I was suspicious of her even as we were laughing. Was everybody really involved in the incidents? The fact that I couldn't say no saddened me.
元気そうで安心したよ。レナもすっごく心配してたよ。
Oh, I'm sure she was.
さとこはざまあないですわって喜んでたな。リカちゃんは病気でかわいそうですってさ。
チェ、みんなで勝手に大盛り上がりしてたみたいだな。
まあまあ。でさ、ケンちゃん、お見舞いに行っちゃ都合悪いかな。
Oh, don't do it!
お見舞い？いいよそんな。重病人ってわけじゃないんだから。
Don't say that!
うちのバッチャが山ほどおはぎを作ってさ、お裾分けに持ってけって言ってんだよ。
We're gonna die. We're poisoned. That's what it is. We're gonna get poisoned. We're gonna have hallucinations and something's gonna happen.
だから持ってくね。
おいおい、風が移っても知らねえぞ。
おじさんもレナもおバカさんだから大丈夫。
Oh, cause that's how it works.
じゃあね、すぐ行くから。
She hung up cheerfully. Rena's coming too? That's what it sounded like. I was still concerned about meeting Rena, but I guess if she was with Mion... No, that's not a comfort! Bro, you're gonna die! Oh, we're gonna watch Straight into Hell. I heard the doorbell 10 minutes later.
どんな感じ？
I don't feel good. I don't feel good.
ちゃんと薬飲んで寝てた？
そりゃもうしっかりとな。
元気そうでよかった。心配してたんだよ。
悪かったな。明日にはもう大丈夫だよ。
Mion showed a complete lack of concern for someone who's recovering, and Rena looked like she was worried about me from the bottom of her heart. I don't trust either of you, I'm sorry. I didn't look like there was anything behind those expressions.
ちょっとお邪魔しようかと思ったけど、まだ本調子じゃないみたいだね。
そうか？
You seen my face appeared a bit sullen.
じゃあこれ、ケイチくん、みーちゃんのおばあちゃんが作ってくれたおはぎだよ。
Rena handed me a package wrapped in newspaper. There might be 5 in here. It was quite hefty.
サンキューな。ミオンのばあちゃんによろしく伝えといてくれよ。
その中にね、レナが作ったのも混じってるんだよ。
Oh, great. That's gonna be the one.
ケイチくんに見つけられるかな？
Oh, the one that kills me?
これ、今日の部活を欠席したケイちゃんへの宿題ね。おはぎにアルファベットがついてるから、明日回答すること。
お見舞いなのか部活なのか、どっちかにしろ。
元気元気。これなら明日は大丈夫そうだね。
この騒ぎで熱がぶり返したらどうしてくれんだよ、まったく。
みーちゃん、あんまり騒いじゃ悪いよ。
We're gonna die.
もう行こう。
Or even worse, what if we leave the mochi out, our dad comes home and eats them, and he dies?
お家の人にも怒られるよ。
Both of them thought my parents were home. It was because the entranceway was a mess.
そうだね。もう行こっかね。あ、そうそうケイちゃん。
なんだよ。
Oh no.
お昼、何食べた？
Fetch me! We're gonna die! The sudden question startled me, and I went wide-eyed when I saw Mion. I'd never seen her like that. It was a highly unsettling visage. But why is she asking me about what I ate for lunch? When she asked was so insane, it was almost meaningless. The way she said it, it was almost like she didn't even care at all about what I ate.
表で食べたよ。
She must have suspected I was with Ooishi-san. Anyway. This game's gonna kill me. I'm gonna die! The curse is gonna reach out and grab my throat! I felt as if I hesitated or tried to change the subject, then they'd read too deep into it, so I tried answering as quickly as possible. Except contrary to the efforts I'd made, there was a pause before they'd reply.
ケイチくん、お昼は外食だったんだね。
The glimmer from Rena's eyes had changed at some point as well. It was now sharp, as if to make me think the feigned ignorance behind her words even more. As if she already knew. That's how it looked to me.
どう？美味しかった？
なんでそんなことを聞くんだよ。
Mion was speaking in an unusually low tone, almost as if she knew that I had eaten at a restaurant in town. No, I'm overthinking this. I mean, both of them should have been in school at lunchtime. There was no way they could have known where I was. No, you forget that the entire village works together. All you need is one of the waitresses to be somebody in one of their families or just work in town and see that, especially if they're on the whole, like, Hinamizawa first, and they see, oh, look, the new kid who moved in is talking with clearly a police officer. I better call and let people know. Gosh darn it. We're gonna die.
渋いおじさまとご一緒だったみたいだけど。誰？
Flop. The package with the mochi I was holding slipped out of my hands. I could tell the blood had drained from my face, making me go pale.
へえ、ケイチくん、それ誰？ひょっとして、この間の人かな？かな？
She still talks the same. I could feel the back of my throat going dry. This was no longer a bluff. They knew everything.
なんでそんなことわかるんだよ。
It took everything I had to finally force those words from my throat. My knees were shaking.
さーてね、おじさんにわからないことはないからね。
Mion sneered knowingly, and her laugh seemed to carry on forever.
で、ケイちゃん、何のお話をしてたの？ずいぶんと熱くなってたみたいだけど。
みんなの話はしてないよ。
Idiot. Why would you say that?
ミオンともレナとも関係ない。
聞いてもないのにレナたちの名前が出るなんて、なんだか怪しいな。
We're so dead. We're so dead. We're gonna die now. It's over, buddy. You're just screwed. Rena's unwavering gaze pierced through my eyes and peered further inside me. I dug my own grave. My heart was throbbing so much, I felt like I was gonna explode.
何を隠れてやろうとも、おじさんには全てお見通しってこと。それだけを忘れないでくれればいいかな。
I couldn't even shake my head. It took everything I had to stop my teeth from chattering. She never let her gaze break from mine, even if she tilted her head slightly.
ケイチ君、顔色悪いよ。もう横になった方がいいと思うね。
そうだね。私たちはもう帰ろう。
As if nothing had happened, they both giggled at each other and started making their way out. No. I hadn't moved a muscle since I dropped the package of mochi. As they left, the door swung closed behind them. All I could do was stare, as if I could move until the door was completely closed. Just as the door was about to close, it opened again slightly with a sudden creak, sending my heart racing once again. A single eye peered through that narrow slit, and Mion's hawkish gaze peered at me once again.
じゃあね、ケイちゃん。
Those are genuine. I wanna cry. Oh my gosh.
明日、学校休んじゃ嫌だよ。
Thud. The door closed. Wasn't able to move a muscle even after their low laughter died off in the distance. The silence once again enveloped the room. Coming back to my senses, the first thing I did was lock the door. You think that's gonna stop them? They knew what Ooishi-san and I talked about. Why? How? No, that wasn't important. Thinking about it now, all of it could have been overheard from the beginning when Ooishi-san met me. Just as Mion said, I couldn't hide anything. Then what were they trying to tell me? The part was obvious. They were warning me not to say anything unnecessary. What did they deem unnecessary? I only talked to Ooishi-san about one thing, and they were warning me that that was unnecessary. What was it that Ooishi-san talked to me about? The incidents involving Oyashiro-sama's curse that occurred every year weren't individual cases, but they were connected as a whole, as well as the fact that there may be multiple perpetrators hidden within Hinamizawa. No, more precisely, that Mion, Rena, Satoko, and Rika-chan were all suspicious. Is that what they were warning me against?
何バカなこと考えてんだよ、俺。
I hit my own face hard enough to let out a loud slap. If only that would make me from this nightmare, but for some reason it felt like I was punching a blanket. It was almost laughably painless. Calm down, Keiichi, Meibara. When did I become such a pessimist? Calm down, calm down! Settle down and sort this out. The reason Mion knew I was eating lunch at Ooishi-san was probably because somebody from Hinamizawa just happened to be there at the time. They must have told Mion I was there. That made the most sense, but you gotta think about it. What kind of power could Mion actually have that people are gonna be reporting to her? Reporting to her. What the fetch is with that? I was hoping it was Mion's like parents and that she was overhearing things or was like even maybe coordinating with them, right? But now it's really starting to make it seem like it's actually the girls in our class, like the friends who are directly involved with this. Why and how? Plus, come to think of it, she didn't ask me where I ate lunch, did she? She only asked, was it good? They were just curious since I was together with someone not from Hinamizawa. It's not as if they had any ulterior motives. That's it. That has to be it. Thinking about it either way, it was the same with Rena. I was just being strangely ambiguous when I met with Ooishi-san, and Rena was just correcting me on that. That's when I was bewildered by the change in character from the usual mild-mannered Rena, and was just startled by it. That's the most natural way of thinking about it. Oh, he's coping hard. He's coping hard. Felt like my mind was mixed up with a tangled mess of spaghetti. Deep red marinara sauce would have poured out in my nose and ears if you squeezed my head. Thinking that, I suddenly felt like vomiting. I really didn't want that to happen, so I stopped holding my head. Lately, I had no idea what anyone was saying. Spending time with them was fun. It didn't feel like there was any sort of hidden agenda. I really do think they're a good bunch of people. When I just moved here, I couldn't make heads or tails of everything. They were really kind to me. Rena was really kind and always looked after me. As long as that strange affliction didn't rear its ugly head, she was pretty cute. I can fix her, don't worry. Mion was also a good person. She didn't care about anyone's age or gender and was optimistic and outgoing. I was never bored when I was with her. And talking of not getting bored, rambunctious Satoko was a good person for that too. She was pretty bratty, but that was just the way she interacted with others. Rika-chan was the same way. She didn't speak often, but that didn't mean she was always silent. They were my friends. But after hearing of the better untold secrets of Hinamizawa from Ooishi-san and Tomitaka-san, when I was told about Oyashiro-sama's cursing, things started going crazy. Then hearing from Ooishi-san that Mion, Rena, Satoko, and Rika-chan were all suspicious. After that, everyone changed. That's right. It all started getting weird after Ooishi-san told me that strange stuff. At that time, I really should have just not listened to those weird stories. I shouldn't have even asked Tomitaka-san about the past incidents on the night of Onikakushi. If I just hadn't got that strange sense of curiosity, if I just hadn't... That's right. So that's why they... blanked Tomitaka-san? Ended? I don't know. That impudent outsider speaking to the likes of me after everyone went out of their way to keep it a secret from me. They'll probably end Ooishi-san as well. For trying to unearth what everyone was warning me about was better left unburied. Besides that, he was unforgivable for spewing words that made me doubt the others. Of course a guy like that's going to be fixed. Is he coping so hard he's going to join them? I guess if you're thinking about it, it might be his only way of survival. If he coordinates with them. I was saying that from the beginning though. I was saying like I'd feel like a terrible person, but I would have opened up and been 100% honest with them. I feel like, if anything, just to save my life. Both Tomitaka-san and Ooishi-san were nothing but outsiders after all. They were entities who couldn't coexist with people of Hinamizawa. Those guys should just fall to the Ooishi-sama's curse and just die. It wasn't their fault. It was my fault for not being able to hold back my curiosity. It wasn't their fault. I wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault, it wasn't their fault, it wasn't their fault, it wasn't their fault. He's breaking. I settled into a daze. It was a lethargic feeling like I'd just gotten up, but the ominous chill that haunted me had subsided. I was fine now. I was no longer frightened. I had completely recovered. I'll go to school tomorrow, right as rain. I'll greet everyone. I'll take part in the club activities. It'll definitely be fun. It had to be fun. I was one of them, after all.
そうだ。おはぎ食べないと、どれがレナの手作りか当てないといけないんだよな。
I remembered the homework the two brought with them when they visited me. But wow, our club to deliver. That was something else. So he's either gonna die, or... Yeah, either this kills him. I'm like 90% sure it will. I picked up the package I dropped on the floor and headed to the living room. It would be nice, I guess, to have some tea with it. To fill my mouth with mochi while drinking tea. Oh, this was quite a delectable situation I was in. Opening up the newspaper wrapping, there were 5 plump red bean paste mochis fit snugly inside. There were letters written from left to right in the newspaper, A, B, C, D, and E. Now then, they said Rena made one of these. I wonder which one. There wasn't much of a difference in how they looked. They smelled and appeared about the same. That was a pretty difficult problem. Biggest difference was probably their shape. I wasn't sure what kind of person Mion's grandma was, but Rena had to be different from hers. Looking carefully, I could see one mochi that was made very neatly. So all that, just by staring at it, one could tell it stood out.
この一個がレナのか否かが勝負の分かれ目みたいだな。
Calm down and think even harder. Mion said her grandma made a ton of them and was told to give some out, if I remember correctly. So that meant 4 of these were from the large batch. Then what about Rena? She probably only made 1. So she probably spent quite a bit of time on it. Meaning the one Rena had to make was this one, E. It's gonna I don't trust these things at all. Okay, so that's my prediction. It's either gonna kill him, or it's gonna have something horrific inside. Like, I don't know, blood? For a moment, I thought it might have been a trap Mion left as that she knew I'd pick up on it, but it probably wasn't the case. I wouldn't be so sure if I knew Mion had made it, but since she said Rena made it, it probably wasn't a trap.
よし、お茶も準備 OK。まずはディフェンディングチャンピオンのミオンのばあちゃんからだ。どれ？
Not bad. The smooth bean paste is soft, chewy texture left little to be desired. The tea I drank after it also accentuated the experience. This was an exquisite piece of work. Now, how about Rena's? The creation was so delicate, one would think it was high-class Japanese dessert. Since I normally had quite the appetite, I was slightly worried about the size of the portion. Oh well, first bite. This is quite a difficult one to judge, actually. The ingredients were exactly the same, so there's little difference in flavor. What was different was how it was shaped at the end, so it was to be expected. So the deciding factors would be presentation and volume. The well-formed, well-sized champion versus Rena the challenger, with the size you just couldn't get enough of. I'd only had one bite of Rena's. Would probably have to wait until after I was done eating to make the decision. Maybe there was something hidden inside that could cause an upset. Oh no. See, my prediction was right. My tongue touched something. Didn't feel like something edible, so I reached in with my fingers and grabbed it. What? What was this? I was having a good day. I was feeling pretty happy. Why? Why? I don't want to click. I don't want to click. Before I could fully comprehend what it was, I threw away the rest of the mochi I was eating as fast. I threw away the rest of the mochi I was eating as fast as I could. I slammed against the wall, causing the bean jam to splatter. Then, after sticking for a moment, it slid down to the floor. I was dumbstruck by my own actions. What was I doing? Rena had gone out of her way to make it for me. How could I? Dumbstruck, I looked down at my hand that performed such a vile act, and I remembered what I'd taken out of my mouth. At first, I thought it was hair. Even though it was shorter than Mion's, Rena's hair was still quite long. And it wasn't this short. It was also a bit too hard to be hair. It was thick enough to roll around on my tongue. There was a bit of a metallic sheen on one end of it. I guess there's a hole for where a thread goes through, like it was a sewing needle. Yeah, that's right. It looked very much like a sewing needle. Exactly like one. The end was pointed as well, quite sharply. It really did just look like a sewing needle. Huh? What did I mean looked very much like a sewing needle just a bit ago? Couldn't answer. But a voice inside me already knew, and let me know by chattering my molars together. I couldn't stave off the terror welling up inside me. Suddenly I tasted something metallic and felt a prickling pain in the back of my throat. It's poisoned! It's poisoned! Stuck my finger in the back of my mouth and felt around to see if I was bleeding. Suddenly I felt an urge to vomit. The sharp taste of bile irritated the back of my throat. Clasped both hands over my mouth. After writhing in agony, I was somehow able to hold back the nausea. I was finally able to breathe normally again, but this time my heart was throbbing intensely. Then it finally registered. Exactly what was mixed in with the mochi. Before I could think of the correct word, my hands were already on the move. Splat. Splop. Splort. I tossed the rest of the mochi against the wall. The geometric pattern of the scattering bean jam on the wall suddenly looked a terrible omen in my mind. After looking away, I dashed out of the hall and flew upstairs to my room where I stayed under my covers until morning. I clutched my own shoulders, howling madly in a mix of fear, anger, sadness, and frustration. This wasn't a threat or a warning or a reminder, nothing as simple as that. What had happened in Hinamizawa? What was happening in Hinamizawa? What would happen? I didn't know the answer to any of those questions. Where did I break taboo? Regardless, now Rena and Mion and the others, they considered me the enemy. And they thought I should just die. I won't let you kill me. Not for such a pointless reason. Fell into a restless sleep and was crushed by my negative emotions as if I was being drawn into a billowing, bottomless swamp. It'd almost be easier if it just killed him. Because now he has to go to school and face that. A drug that makes you kill yourself and threat. Alright, let's jump right into those tips. Hard to swallow. Enjoy a homemade snack. Alright, let's start. Tip number 1. What's a drug that makes you commit suicide?
Tanto 直入に自殺させる薬ってないんですか？
直接的にはない。
遠回しですね。では間接的にはあるってことですか？
自殺したくなる精神状態を誘発することはできる。
Okay.
ちゅうことだ。
難しい言い方になりましたね。何ですかその自殺したくなる精神状態ってのは。
例えば一般的な心理学見地から言えばじゃが、心理面が内向状態から外向状態に転じるときに最も 自殺が多いと言われちょる。
Okay. Clinical depression and bipolar disorder are different. Clinical depression indicates a prolonged state of depression, whereas bipolar disorder is characterized by a passive depressive state accompanied by very active manic states. I've known two people who had bipolar disorder, and I've seen both of them when they were off their medication, and it's scary. I think the scariest one was I was getting a ride from somebody, and I hadn't realized he'd stopped taking his medication until like we were on the highway. Then the highway, like the speed of the highway was 70. He was going 95. It was really, really, really fast. Like he was zooming past cars and weaving through traffic, and he'd never done that before. And I was genuinely terrified. And we got to our destination, and we asked like his wife, and she went and talked to him about it and realized like he'd been off his medication. He'd entered a mania, and a mania, you're like if it really is the opposite of a depressed state where like you feel like kind of underwhelmed, you feel kind of unmotivated, your thoughts can feel lethargic, and you can feel very kind of like beaten down. Mania is the opposite, where you're heightened emotions, you're almost bursting with energy and potential, and the worst part of it is you lose your sense of almost like a sense of self-preservation, because you feel invincible. You feel like you can't do anything wrong. It's an extreme form of the same type of activity that causes people to believe that they're the exception to a rule. Like, oh, this is dangerous, but I won't be in danger because I'm too good, or I know I'm competent enough to deal with this. And that was what happened. He just decided on a whim that he didn't have to follow the rules of the road because he was fine. He was a capable driver. He knew he wouldn't get in an accident, and just casually was absolutely tearing down the road.
内向状態の時は自信を喪失し非常に悲観的だ。だが自殺もせん。自殺をする気力すらないからだ。逆の状態もまた自殺をせん。今度は逆に非常に自信過剰で行動的なので、自らを順風満帆と思う。だから自殺などせんのだ。
なるほどね。どっちの状態でも自殺をしないのに、状態が入れ替わるときに自殺するんですか?
Because you see, I'm guessing he's going to say that if you're in a depressed state and you become like, you latch onto the idea of ending your life, and then you flip to the mania, you stop feeling any inhibition and you feel like anything's possible. But if you've latched onto the idea and you kind of pull it with you to the manic state, then yeah, you'd be like, oh yeah, I can do this. So you just go for it.
内向状態には自殺願望はあるが、自殺という大仕事を遂げる気力すらもない。だが、外向状態が始まると、徐々に気力が充実し、体の自由が利くようになってくる。
なるほど。つまり自殺する気力が回復するわけですね。
そういうことじゃのう。だからこの時期に変な気を起こさんように処方箋を施すわけじゃな。
Now, I don't know how valid this is. I can maybe see how it'd be like a fringe case, but as far as I understand from bipolarism, it's not like this is like a frequent thing. I just feel like it is like a confluence of two extremes, and anytime you mix extremes, extreme things can happen.
では、富武氏はこの心理状態だったんですかね。
一般的に自殺はちゃんとした文化的な手法で行われる。道具を使用してな。
Civilized.
自虐行動とは全く違うぞい。
富武氏の自殺は文化的じゃないですよね。ではやっぱり何かの中毒と考えるのが自然ですか。最初に言った自殺したくなる精神状態を起こす薬ってのを教えてください。
鎮痛薬の一部には心理を内向から外向に過剰転換させる効果があると報告されとる。
Yeah, meth is intense.
それから催眠作用を持つ薬を異常摂取した場合にも異常行動が報告されとるが、あまり一般的ではないの。
その二つは検視の報告だと違うみたいですね。他の可能性は？
あとは病気しか考えられん。甲状腺異常を引き起こす病気にしばしばそれに似た症状が報告されとる。だが、それらは概して特徴的な症状が多い。
Yeah, and Graves' disease would be something that would manifest over time, not suddenly like have a turnaround in an evening.
仏は違うの。
もっと突発的に発生するものはありませんかね。今回のケースと合うような突発性で自殺したくなるようなやつです。
他には。そうじゃな。脳障害によって精神に異常を発生する状態じゃな。
Okay.
これは薬物中毒でも起こるが、脳の外傷や一部の病気なんかでも起こる。
つまり薬によらなくても異常な精神状態に陥る可能性があると。
Yes, that should like makes me still lean on the theory of like a hitherto unknown hallucinogenic, and then the beating of like people like attacking him. Like you combine like horrific hallucinations with the feeling that you're being like attacked and are about to like have a really painful like death could be the combination of instability that would make someone like do something super drastic.
仏は犯人に囲まれて命に危険が迫っとったんじゃろ。極度の緊張が続いて、それに分泌異常が重なって、さらに打ちどころが悪くて脳に障害が起こり自虐行動に走った。
もうちょっと省略して言ってくれませんかね。
つまり乱闘中に豆腐の角に頭ぶつけて、それで異常が発生したと言っとるんだ。
Just laugh the pain
じゃあ
away.
腰には殺意はなかったってことですかね。ちょいと小銭を巻き上げようと思ったら、たまたま殴りどころが悪かったと。
The two plump men laughed harshly.
なんてわけはありませんね。
いかにも薬物の常用にせよ、精神的なものにせよ、仏の身元が鍵を握っとるぞい。そっちはどうなっとるんじゃ。
あら、こんな時間。そろそろ戻らないとクマちゃん怒っちゃいますね。
Like, oh look, I can't talk about that.
おう、頑張れよ。いいお年をの。
いいお年を。
I think Keiichi's like okay. I'll say my theories for the end. We'll do the last tip first, and then we'll finish. Okay, so here we go. Thread.
おや？今の皆さんは確か
議員バッジが2人いたっすね。
Ah.
じゃあ県議と市議の園崎だ。
Sonozaki.
面白いっすね。親戚同士で県議と市議やってんすか。
The prefecture assembly member and the city council are related. Yeah, so it's Mion's family. They're just super political, and their ties and fingers are going everywhere.
これがずるいんですよ。お互いの名前で慈善運動バンバン。片方の選挙中にはもう片方が別に講演会を開いて二重に選挙運動やってんですよ。堂々と。
よくわかんないんすけど、それって公選法違反じゃないんすか？
慈善運動にならない限り政治活動は無制限ですからね。
Yeah.
クマちゃん、そんなんじゃ選対本部好きになった時大変ですよ。
So they're engaging in like elective nepotism, but they're towing a line because technically they're not coordinating it, even though they know exactly what to do to help each other. But yeah, because it's like there's nothing that stops a politician from supporting another politician that they like agree with. It just so happens that they're family, but it still feels wrong, right?
公選法くらいは勉強してください。
俺、知能犯化は無理っす。バカですから。
There was a prefectural assembly member, Sonozaki, and the city councilor, Sonozaki. Also the mayor of Hinamizawa. So they're all influenced by the Sonozaki family. What crap.
お見送りしてんのは、副所長とうちの課長っすね。
It came to me. So, they're getting after him. That night when the department chief invited me to go along to get some Odin, I thought that was it.
大石さんは友達多いから聞いてるかもしれないけど、聞いてるかな？
いえ、何も。
お母さん、ガモにはんぺん頼みます。所長んとこに議員の怒鳴り込みがあったんだよ。
Right.
あれま、そうなんですか。あ、お母さん、私にもう一杯ください。
prefectural assembly member Sonozaki and the city councilor Sonozaki were both intimidating. Our snot-nosed carrier police chief couldn't handle being yelled at by them. They're like the Yakuza.
ひなみ沢事件の捜査の仕方で君を指名して陳情してきたよ。
ありゃ、私？はてはて。
とぼけるなよ。例のひなみ沢の過去の事件。
Right.
蒸し返してるだろ？
私、富武殺しで手一杯でそんな余裕ないですよ。ね。
本当に？本当にそうならいいんだけどさ。
There was a period of silence. While we were silent, we made headway on our food and drink.
いやー、ごちそうになっちゃいました。今月は負けっぱなしだったんで財布つらかったんですよ。助かりました。
いや、いいよ。また馬教えてよ。大井さんと同じ馬を買うから。
最近はダメです。馬の声がさっぱりですから。タクシー！
We're going by train. The department chief is taking a taxi. I have my own car, but it'd be rash to drive it home. Can't blow it right before retirement with a DUI. Good. Even though I could still rattle off, it looked like his legs were already jelly. Pushing him into the cab, I gave the driver the department chief's address.
ではではまた明日。良いお年を。
大石さん。
はいはい。
過去の事件は全部個別に終わってる。縦に並べるのはやめるんだよ。村の連中は半ば本気でタタリを信じてるんだから。
私だってタタリなんか信じちゃいませんよ。
大石さんは来年で退職じゃないですか。退職金でローン返してお母さんと北海道に引っ越すんじゃなかったっけ？
I mean, that sounds pretty good. So the threat is going to be, don't risk your severance.
ばあ様がどうしても生まれの北海道に帰りたいって泣くんですよ。最後のご奉公なんです。退職金はまあすすきので楽しむことにしますな。
所長は退職時特別昇給を見直すかもってさ。
A public servant severance payment is calculated based on their monthly salary when they retire. So a special promotion of 2 pay grades is given before retirement. This toss up the employee's severance pay tends to be how it's done around here. Of course, it's not exactly a commendable custom. Incidentally, the difference that 2 pay grades make the payout quite significant.
さすがインテリの若所長は言い出すことが模範的です。でもまあ、私たちの給料が血税で支払われてることを思えば、まあ、時代の流れですかね。
He's pretty chipper about it. Certainly wasn't a laughing matter, but I'll laugh it through it anyway.
僕も模範的なこととは思わないよ。でもまあ、大石さんはそれだけの退職金をもらってもおかしくない活躍をしてきたからさ。僕としてはぜひもらってほしいんだよ。
もらえるもんならそりゃ欲しいですけどね。
もらえるよ。大石さんが大人なら。
運転手さん、引き止めてすみませんね。お願いします。
I closed the door roughly, interrupting my department chief's conversation a bit rudely. It looked like he still had something to say, but he just smiled wryly and waved, and I waved to return. The cab sped up gradually and soon disappeared among the sea of lights.
参ったな。ローン返済できるかな。
That sucks. It sucks that he's like throwing so much at this. Alright. So where are we sitting? Where am I standing? Okay. So it's interesting because I almost feel like Keiichi's kind of becoming a part of 2 minds. There's a part of him that's like reacting to becoming part of Hinamizawa and wanting to just like be siding with them, but they're also actively threatening him and might see him as an enemy already. I feel like he might have a choice if he goes in and he like pulls them aside and he says like, look, this is everything that's happened. I've been told other stuff. I haven't said anything. I just was listening. I don't think any of it's like fair. I think he's like, I think if he gives himself 100% to them, he might actually make it through okay. But if he hesitates at all, I think he's dead. I mean, it's pretty clear. Putting needles in food, that's pretty bad. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? Can you imagine going through that in real life? Like, that would be utter madness, just insanity. I have no idea. Heck, even if he tries to get on their side and things seem quiet and everything seems to go back to normal, he might just be essentially on the docket until the next Watadagashi, so it sucks. Man. Ugh, this feels gross. Feel gross. But I guess we'll have to wait till next week to figure out what happened, so. Well, thanks for joining me. That was fun. No, it actually kind of wasn't. Like, I enjoy the story. I'm grateful that I'm reading it, but I feel sick inside. Like, that's pretty impressive that it could be that, like, influential, that the game could make me feel these things. Like, that's awesome, but it's also like, ugh. But anyway, hope you all enjoyed. I certainly enjoyed making it. But time to get back to the old grind. I gotta get started working again, which means I'm gonna be taking a break from making videos for a while, but I look forward to reading your comments on the latest videos. Of course, you're seeing this. By that point, I'll have been able to read and respond to all your comments. I'll be recording again for the next week. So it's really interesting how this is gonna, on my end, everything's changed and reshuffled, but on your end, it should feel relatively normal. And I feel like it's a good place to be. I'm really happy with how things are playing out. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel and for being a part of it. The fact that you're here watching these videos, it means the world to me because it's showing support for the channel and the series as we go. And I love it. I love being able to share these stories and kind of give my impressions and opinions about it, and that you're actually here and interested in what I have to say and how I react to things is awesome. So I want to keep doing it. And thank you for that support that makes it so it's easier and more, it motivates me more than anything else. Especially to the patrons and members. You're amazing and incredible. I don't deserve you, but I hope I can be worthy of your support and do everything I can to make sure that you feel like you're getting your money's worth, that it's going towards something great and building up something wonderful, because that's ultimately like the best thing I could do. So I really appreciate that support. But it is what it is. Regardless of how you support me, you're here, and that's all that matters. So thank you. And until next video you're watching me, I'll see you next. I'll see you there.